It's Laura Eubanks of Design for Serenity, and I am here with Team DFS in Laguna, Niguel. We are going to be performing a seasonal maintenance on a beautiful, succulent jewel box garden that we put in 2.5 years ago. And then we're coming back to do this slope behind me. It's really an interesting project because this is common space. This is a condominium community, and this is a thoroughfare to the walking trails in the back. And our client is graciously and generously having me design the slope, despite the fact that it's not really her property. So it's just kind of neat, and the community is behind her, and everyone is really, really excited. We have design challenges that we need to face. We have a lot of borrowed landscape. I mean, look, we have a ton of creeping fig. We've got eucalyptus trees. We've got giant bushes. And it's really important to remember, guys, when you're doing an installation to consider your borrowed landscape, right? So she was thinking, our client was thinking, oh, maybe aloe trees, or, and I'm like, no, low profile. We don't want to compete with all of the borrowed landscape and all of the height that's already here. We brought in some gorgeous boulders. We got some honey onyx that are absolutely out of this world from KRC Rock. We got a few pieces of jasper purple. It's going to be a super exciting day. I've got Mel and Hannah working on tightening up the jewel box garden. They are performing maintenance, meaning they're taking care of existing plants, checking for diseases and pests, removing, leaves that may be desiccating, picking up detritus, and also pulling some things out that are absolutely not salvageable and replacing with some beautiful things that I got at Oasis Water Efficient Gardens. In addition to what we're doing here in the jewel box area, I have Greg and Omar working on the slope. We are reinstalling flagstone steppers, pulling out undesirable plant material, and I'm going to focus my attention on reworking these pots. This garden went in 2.5 years ago. It's evolved, as things do. And we have such a heavy tapestry presence that this season I want to do specimens in a lot of these beautiful pots. So you're probably thinking, what's the matter with that little Hercules? Not a darn thing, and it's going to find a home. This might be one of the reasons why this is kind of languished. So what I'm going to do, I know this seems really counterintuitive, but to encourage more roots, I'm going to cut the roots. And do this. And we love a client that feeds us. No pressure, clients, but we do love it. So here, now we have this beautiful little aloe Hercules that we can put in the pot over in the corner. And I love that idea too, because these pots are on the patio and that pot is actually in the landscape proper. So visually what that does is just bring the space together. I brought a number of plants, which I normally wouldn't do in a maintenance, but because I missed last year's, some things just haven't done well. For example, in this area here, the Ruchia has done quite well. We have a little Echeveria here. I think this might have been an Imbricata. Look at that. I mean, it is absolutely decimated. We've got a little Mammillaria here, a little cactus. Looks like it just threw off a bunch of blooms. It's not super happy, guys. This is something that, I'm not sure what to do because it's clearly trying. We have two, fairly viable pieces here, and then we have one little guy that looks pretty dead, but he's also thrown off blooms. So this is something that I'll probably let ride for another season. This big agave, I think this is a cream spike, is fantastic, but visually I feel like this is a little overpowering. So I'm going to pull this out and I'm going to move this pot to another area of the garden. You know how traditional gardeners will plant new annuals in their pots every year? That's why they're called annuals, because they grow for 4 to 6 weeks and then you throw them out and then you put in new flowers, right? You see that in master plan communities all the time. They do impatiens in the spring and then they do marigolds in the summer. So we can treat succulents the same way if you want. A lot of these little sedums and crassulas and etchies are very inexpensive and easy to come by. And sometimes we'll just pull them out and pop in new ones, just like we would in any kind of annual garden, so that we can maintain the tapestry vibe and all the color. Over time, most of my tapestry gardens start to convert to more specimen type gardens, meaning where we're really supporting the larger plants, just because that's a natural progression of a garden. You really want to support what's doing well, and what's doing well typically is also getting bigger. So you want to support that, which means you don't have as much room, and then the balance of the garden changes a little bit, and you just have to adapt. I think that's the most important takeaway from this. When you plant your garden, don't expect it to look the same year in and year out and year in and year out. Hell yeah. Expect to change. The garden will tell you what it needs, and you'll also change your mind, and you will evolve in your thinking too. So never be afraid to really mix it up. Well, I wasn't going to plant this redwing here, but I got inspired. It was over in a pot in the corner over there, a smaller, narrower pot, and it was kind of languishing. It wasn't looking great. And when I went to get it, to move it over into this pot, I severed it from this massive root ball. Look at that. It was so grossly root bound. I am absolutely appalled. This weighs a solid 10 pounds, easy, of root. Crazy. So I've successfully worked with mangaves as cuttings. So I knew by just removing a lot of the roots that it would perk right up. So I think this is going to be really, really happy here in this pot. I'm just thrilled that I could intervene and bring this plant some relief. Today we accomplished all of the maintenance in here. We did all of our replant. We got some more chamois beige top dressing down. The guys got started on the slope, laying in some new flagstone steps, bringing in the boulders. They haven't really been staged yet, but we got them brought in. We did some demo over there. We are going to wait until we're done with this project to remove all the detritus. So we're just kind of cleaning up and putting everything in piles today. But we will be back and we will show you all of the finished work that we've accomplished here, and also get into some slope specifics. So be sure and stay tuned. It is day 2 in Laguna, Niguel. Yesterday we wrapped up the jewel box garden, and I'll show you that in a little bit. But today we've been focusing on this flagstone patio / walkway and the slope. So before, we just had a few stones kind of hodgepodge in through here, and they were on the smaller side. So what I had the client do was go and purchase a half of a pallet of larger pieces of flagstone. The bigger the flagstone, the more secure it is, the more stable it is. So the guys, we've had Kevin and Mel and Omar working all day today on laying out the design and then securing each stone. The effect has been so dramatic. This flagstone just opens this right on up. It is so incredibly inviting. And remember, sometimes less is more, right? So I pulled out a lot of smaller pots, a lot of tchotchkes, a lot of plants that look kind of, not great. And Hannah really designed, she did. She designed slope and did that installation herself. Hannah has an aesthetic that's a little more refined than mine. And there are times when that comes in really, really handy. So I love what Hannah has done. We ran flagstone stairs up each side for accessibility. Omar did a beautiful job of that, because that's the thing with your slope. If you have one, you need to be able to get up in there. So make sure that you take that into consideration. And we like to use flagstones as steppers. We just think it looks really good. But you can do, whatever you want. Railroad ties, prefabbed pavers, flagstones, concrete, whatever floats your boat. But we dig the flagstone. So now we have created accessibility so that folks can get up there and do maintenance. The gardeners for the association, they have to trim this creeping fig, amicus, Creepomucus, Figusamucus. And so we need to be mindful of that. I made some changes over here too to accommodate that. Just kind of opened it up, gave the guys footholds so that it would be easier to access this plant when needed. We are dealing with spray irrigation up here too. This is association property, right? You know, our client owns the inside garden, but this is association. And so we have to go with what irrigation they're providing. So this is all getting spray. And you will notice that the plants on the slope are all soft. I brought some barrel cactus just in case, but we weren't feeling it. We are going to put down some pre-emergent, some preen down here before we put down more chamois beige top dressing in between the joints of the plants. The client had some sort of little ground cover, but she couldn't sustain it. The weeds just took over, so she decided, forget it, I don't even care. So we're just gonna support rock here. So we'll put down a little preen, then we'll put down the rock, and then up on the slope, we're going to do lava 3/4 inch. I prefer the lava rock on a slope because it knits together. It's a really porous rock and it doesn't have the tendency to slide the way some other rock does. And it's lightweight and it's easy to move too, which is important. And you know me, I love my burgundy lava. I love the color. It makes the plants just pop. Okay, we're back and magically we are done. And I am so thrilled with how this turned out. Okay, so, you know, from the get, you know, the challenges, we've got the creeping fig and the gardeners that need to come through and trim it from time to time. So I was trying to be mindful of that so as to not overplant this area. Our client had some plant material going here, but it wasn't really uniform. It was kind of, you know, hodgepodge. So I tightened it up. I went and repotted a lot of her existing pots with fresh plant material. I top dressed everything. I restaged some things. She will be hand watering from time to time with a hose. This is all on spray. This is, remember, the community area. She did get permission from her HOA to garden in here, but it is on spray irrigation, and not everything will get hit. But we are also coming into a cooler time of year, so I'm not worried about it. It's late September, so we'll be fine. Yeah, so what we did is as I said, we planted, you know, everything kind of low pro in this area here for easy accessibility. Hannah blew the slope out with agave tenuata, which is a client favorite, more mangaves, portulacaria minimas, just absolutely beautiful. I top dressed with my favorite burgundy lava, and then we did a chamois beige through this pathway. We did open up the patio, or created a patio. There were just a few flagstones here, and we really blew this out. This is a walk path that goes down here to a gate. It is community, so people are allowed to come through here. This area was also just sort of a hodgepodge of stuff. Also, accessibility is needed to get to the wall. Omar planted these beautiful pots that the client purchased with columnar cactus that I got at Waterwise Botanicals. Omar top dressed them all by himself and chose all the materials, and he did such a great job. Omar was hired as an installer, but he is proving himself to be quite the little designer, isn't he?
I'm just so proud of them. These look so good. So this area, I decided we wanted to keep it really minimal. And I think we did such a great job of doing just that. With the fig on the wall, we thought in here that this Talavera pot was here, and I loved it. So I left that, but we added the 3 pots and a couple of really cool honey onyx boulders. We top dressed this with the chamois beige. Our client had a few bags of this really cool Mexican beach pebble. And so I just kind of Jackson Pollocked this Mexican beach around on top of the chamois. And it really helped soften the look because it was just kind of screaming chamois beige. So I kind of worked them in a little bit. They're not just laying right on the top. I kind of worked them in, and I really am pleased with the way this looks. Over here, I added a little pot as well. This area felt a little empty, so I planted a little aloe glauca here and top dressed with some of the clients' Mexican beach pebbles. We included another path for accessibility over on this side. There's a very sad plumeria up there in the corner that the client, wanted to try, and I really think it's going to do well. It doesn't look great right now, but when we come back next year to do maintenance, I'll be sure and point it out. And I think that you will be blown away at how big and beautiful it's going to be. Let's go on inside and take a look at the jewel box. I am so thrilled with how this Petalanthus wall turned out. We just basically fluffed it up. We didn't really do anything new. We had aeoniums in here. We added a lot more aeonium, a lot more sunburst, and a lot more of the dinner plate herbicums. We also took out, I believe it was jasmine over here on this white wall, and added Crassula undulata. Then just added a couple beautiful Talavera pieces that were in the client's collection. Over here, I pulled a Mangave Red Wing out of this urn. It just didn't look good. And I popped a little Hercules that also was one of the owner's plants in there instead. And then at the base of the urn, I threw down some jade pebbles, which I thought just really anchored it in the space. So I'm really happy with that. I also added a little more jade in here. And so we've just got a few brush strokes around the garden of the jade rock. We also added more of the black 3/8, but we didn't go crazy with it. We just accentuated, because it was a lot of chamois beige. And especially with this beautiful patio that she has, these stones are so stunning, but they're very similar in color. So I wanted to pull texture in. She's got these stupid trees, right? These dumb eucalyptus that have dropped probably a bucket of leaves since I did the final walkthrough cleanup here a half an hour ago. I don't know how she stands it. It would drive me crazy. But, there goes one now. Any rate, she doesn't seem to mind, and that's a blessing. But we do get a lot of leaf drop in here, so I didn't want to go really heavy with the black, because I think the leaves will show up a lot more on black than on beige, right? So anywho, whatever. But over here is the little xeriscape that we did 2 years ago. I took a variegated agave out of here and put it in a pot. And this poor little barrel cactus, this is it's just an Echinocactus graysonia, but it just was in a pot and it was struggling and it looked really bad. So I'm hoping that it's going to be happier here in the ground. I also reworked this pot. I put a Euphorbia flangeli crest in here. The Athona capensis was already here. And then I top dressed with yellow and orange glass beads. I love that. So pretty. So this just got, all tightened up. Rather than having a bunch of random plants in the pots, we put specimens in the pot. So we have this beautiful Pachypodium lemmerii. Here's the red wing that was in the pot in the corner that I just mentioned. This pot, squattier, fatter. It has a lot more room. I also cut a lot of the roots off of this plant. It was terribly root bound. And I think it's just going to come to life here. This was a cute little agave that she picked up at Oasis Water Efficient in Escondido. And I just thought this plant deserved to be in a pot by itself. So a beautiful, again, Talavera pot with those cool glass beads. I get this glass in plastic containers from Southwest Boulder and Stone. They have a really good selection. So you might want to check that out if you're looking for small quantities of glass to top dress your pots. Yeah, and then here, Hannah came in and tightened up this tapestry, pulled out desiccated plants, popped in some new things. I did go through here today and do some overhead watering. I can't stress enough how important that is. Haven't we been seeing a lot of mealybug lately on our plants? One way to combat those pests that kind of take up residence, like mealybugs and aphids, for example, is to come out and just shower your plants off from time to time. That'll really help combat the occurrence of pests on your plants. So there are no pests. I didn't see anything here to concern myself with. That lavender lady mangave is gorge. And if you're going to see mealybug or pest, oftentimes you're going to see it kind of down here in the cricks and the crannies, right? In those little tight areas. So check your plants out very closely. Hit it with some water, and it'll really help make that a very inhospitable area for pests to reside. Our client loves Euphorbia millii and hasn't had a lot of success growing them. So I decided we were going to try one more time with this really cool variegate that I got from Oasis Water Efficient. So again, I think maybe putting it in a pot, she might have better luck, and she will hand water this every week or so gently, which is what I do with my variegate that I have in a pot, and I think it'll be just fine. So again, Hannah came through, tightened up these planting beds with fresh plant material, tucked in new rock, checked to be sure there were no, pests or diseases or concerns. Did not find any. So this just got, just completely refluffed. This garden looks like a shiny new penny. We've got a beautiful yucca in this pot right here. Again, taking out the hodgepodge of plant material. Same with this pot here. We took out the hodgepodge of plant material and just planted a beautiful agave variegate. This is one we took out of the ground over in the xeriscape area, and now it gets to stand alone right here. Our client had, when we were here a couple of years ago doing this initial installation, she had these beautiful variegated agave attenuata, and I believe they were over on the other side and they were frying. So we moved them over here to a shady spot, and they are absolutely thriving and extremely happy over here in this corner. Check out the perfection of this Baccarnia recurvata. Look at the perfect caudex on that. It's just a perfect round little ball. This is the cutest Baccarnia I have ever seen. Over here, she wanted to try jasmine on this wall. She loves the smell of it. It's very sentimental. I don't think that it's been getting quite enough water. That's why it's looking a little limp. So I watered it, but good. And I think it should bounce back. In here, to supplement, we just added Crassula undulatas. These were planted in 5-gallon cans 2.5 years ago. So you can see the growth that we've had on the Crassulas. And then here is a beautiful Aloe cameronii. And you know me, every time I come to do a maintenance, I dig it out, cut off the roots, and set it back in the pot. And that keeps it really, really red. This has gotten, just since yesterday, it's already turned a beautiful, beautiful color. So that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. I appreciate you all so much for following along. This has been such an incredible couple of days. I'm so thrilled to have my son John here doing the videos, and I know how much you appreciate his expertise. We appreciate Greg and Hannah, Kevin, Mel, Omar. We just had an absolute blast. This has been Laura Eubanks of Design for Serenity in Laguna Niguel with a regular annual maintenance and a slope installation. Bye, guys.